Good afternoon, ladies and gents. It is June 25th, 2013. And I do believe that today is the KNKL show. What day are we on here? Are we on... Holy moly. 89? No way. 89. We are getting very close to 100. Yes, today is episode 89 of the KNKL show. I am your host, Kienan Lafferty. And today we are going to be giving a tutorial, you could call it. It's actually going to be a little bit more of a talk on how to become the artist you always wanted to be and do exactly what you want in the industry. And basically, yeah, we're going to be going into that. But first, we need to take a stroll down the lovely lane, because we have a bunch of new awesome submissions coming in from viewers like you. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. We got this awesome working man. We got this cool, I'm sure this is a self-portrait, very handsome man. I like that. Beautiful violin playing woman. And I like the stylization going on here. Beautiful colors in this one. And I like the moody darkness in this one. Very scary. Love it. So thank you to everyone who has been submitting their work to the KNKL fan page. For those of you who haven't gone and liked it or thought about submitting your work, just click the link down below. You can check it out if you're watching on YouTube. Alright guys, next announcement is I wanted to say thank you to everyone who submitted their work to the Emma Off Time Art Contest, because today was the day that we released and revealed the winners. And we had like this awesome animation coming in from Carl, Ozzy, Philip Sanchez. These were the top 3 winners. So, and then we had a bunch of honorable mentions. So please go take some time and look at this. Again, you can find the link down in the description. Alrighty, people. With all that out of the way, yeah, let's go ahead and get today started. Let's get today's talk started. And I felt like this was a very, very important thing to talk about on the actual tutorial day, right? Where we focus more on art, because we have the Thoughtful Thursdays, and I was like, yeah, maybe we could do that, but you know, that's more about like life and stuff. This is more about really practical stuff in terms of business and becoming an artist and studying and all this like mental game that goes into it. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. And what we're going to be starting with is how to find your way about in the art world. And basically I'm just going to be talking about my experience, not necessarily telling you what to do, but I'm just going to be telling you my experience. And if anything resonates with you or you feel like it'll work for you, then you go ahead and you give it a shot. But I really believe that this is the way that a lot of people can do it. I don't feel like I was like a special exception or I got really lucky. I just had this feeling that, you know, I knew what I wanted to do and I knew I was going to do it. All right, so let's kind of start off with that. How to find your way in the art world and what to do and what not to do. So I think the biggest thing that you want to start off thinking about in the beginning is, are you ready to accept the fact that art is going to become a very, very significant part of your life? For me, it was always fairly easy because I was just always super excited and interested in all of these, you know, different art styles. And, you know, I really got drawn to anime because I like the simplicity that they drew the characters' faces in and how simplified and expressive they could be. And I like the way that they drew like the hot ladies and everything. I was like, hey, I want to learn how to draw that. And I was like, I'm going to learn how to draw the hot anime chicks first, and then I'll learn how to, you know, draw the guys, because, yeah, that's pretty easy. That's super easy. You know, so, I mean, I took an interest in just drawing that stuff, because, I mean, I was a young guy, and of course I'm going to be, you know, interested in those types of things at that age. But it was kind of interesting how it kind of, I don't know exactly how to put this, but I think it's a valid thing, especially nowadays. Like, in video game industry, like, it's all about, like, unfortunately, it's all about, like, sexy ladies and gritty action and all this stuff. And, you know, I mean, I think there's a lot more. I think that's all kind of like this, it's all, like, fluffed up, right? And it's pushed to the forefront of, like, hey, this stuff sells. Like, when we put this stuff in our games, it sells a lot. So, naturally, we got to have artists who know how to do this stuff. And I think, while it is a good, I think it's a good skill to have to draw, like, aesthetically pleasing, beautiful people, right? I think that there's also like a lack of story and substance that's coming through in a lot of today's entertainment that I'm trying to kind of dial it back a little bit. You know, as fun as it is to kind of just indulge in that stuff, you kind of take a step back and be like, wait a minute, maybe there's something else, like something else here that I really like. What's the core flavor here, right? Like what's beneath all the grit and the guns and the sexiness and the ladies, you know. And that's kind of like a whole nother conversation for another time. But the point is when I was growing up, I knew that art was going to be a very, very significant part of my life, and I was ready to kind of take that on, and I was really, really excited to take it on. And I think that some people get the feeling that, or they get the idea that, I've heard it once said that, you know, oh, I've tried all these other things, right? I've tried all these other things in career paths, and I feel like art is the only thing that I have left to do, right? Or I feel like I just have to fall back on art because that's the only thing that I kind of know how to do. And you want to be really careful with that type of mentality, because if your mentality is you feel like you're falling back on art, or you feel like you have no other choice than to do this thing that you kind of know how to do, you really shouldn't be thinking that way. Art should be the main thing, right? Art should be the main priority, and if for some reason you couldn't get to it, which I think is literally virtually impossible, like if you just keep going, keep striving for it, you will get it. The question is just when, not if. But just make sure that if you want to be an artist in the industry and you want to take it seriously, make sure you really, really commit to it. And that's step one, right? Because anybody can be like, they get up in the morning, they're like, all right, I'm going to be an artist, I'm going to be the best that ever was, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to study all these things, and I'm going to get good at drawing sexy ladies, and I'm going to get good at drawing backgrounds and cars and structures, and I'm going to be good at everything. I'm going to be the best that ever was, and everybody's going to want to work with me and hire me and pay me lots of money, right? You can do that for a day, right? You can get up and you can say that for a day. But really, what's going to happen is your willpower will eventually run out, right? As it always does. Willpower will always, always run out whenever you decide to commit to go for something. And the secret to keep yourself going is that you always have your reasons to fall back on when your willpower runs out. You fall back on those reasons of, hey, look, this is why I need to be an artist. This is why I want my life to be centered around art, and this is why I want to get paid doing what I love to do. And if you have reasons like that, I really think that you know, your steam will dwindle sometimes. Sometimes it'll go down, but it'll never dissipate. It'll never go away, and it'll come back up. You know, it'll rise and fall and rise and fall. This is something I'm always talking about on Thoughtful Thursdays. Sometimes people get scared when they do something and they're all jazzed up and excited about it at the beginning, and then they kind of like their interest in it slowly kind of dwindles away, and they think that something's wrong. They think that something's changing, or you know, something's drastically gone wrong, right? But really, that's just the way of life. Life is constantly just in this state of change, and it'll go down and it'll go up. So as long as you understand that that's what's happening, you won't freak out and panic and be like, oh, well, something must, oh no, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this because it's not the same. It's not the same. It just must not not been meant to be, you know. So, and I think that's just a load of horse crap, and you shouldn't listen to that. So, yeah, really, really commit to it if you're ready to do this. If you're ready to become an artist and you want to do it for a living, anybody can. Anybody can. I don't care what kind of style you're working in, and I don't care what you like to draw. There is a job out there waiting for you, right? And sometimes if you can't find it immediately, oftentimes you might actually create it, right? It seems like it just shows up out of the blue. For example, when I was growing up, I love 2D art, right? And I still do. Obviously I'm doing the comic, and I do concept art and promotional stuff for League of Legends. And I love doing that. And I grew up with the realization, like everywhere I looked around me, you know, all of these 2D animated movies, you know, because I also wanted to be an animator growing up. I watched all these 2D animated movies start shifting over to 3D animation, right? That was like when Toy Story started coming out and Pixar started getting really big. And, you know, this was right after Lion King came out. And I remember when I was a kid, I watched it, and I was like, this is like the best movie that has ever been made and ever will be made. And in some cases, that is still kind of true. It is a pretty good movie. But I just kind of saw that transition, and subconsciously it told me that if I want to make it in this industry and I want to do this, I have to start learning 3D. And so I took a semester of 3D animation at college when I got out of high school. And it was fun. It was really kind of interesting, but deep down inside I knew that it wasn't what I wanted to do. You know, it was just like, this is not my life. This is not what my life is meant to be. I'm meant to create 2D pieces of art, paintings and beautiful visions, you know, for concepts and video games. So I after that semester, I kind of just ditched it, right? And I said, all right, well, I'm just going to stick with what I really, really feel like I should be doing. And then what's interesting is that, you know, I was also kind of ignorant too, because I thought that, you know, 2D art was just no longer needed in games. But after working at Riot Games, I realized that 2D art is always going to be a part of anything. It's going to be in the concepting stage, right? Whether you're working on a video game, a movie, TV show, anything, you're always going to be needing those types of things. And now it's finally getting dark outside, and it looks like it's getting dark in the room. So I'm going to let a little bit more light in. Yes. It's going to get really dark in here soon. All right. So, yeah, 2D art is always going to be a part of the world. It is never going anywhere. There always needs that. There's always room for that person to conceptualize the initial vision, right? Put it from mind to paper. And that's something that's never, ever going to go away. So, yeah, I was really, really happy to realize that upon actually working in the industry, and how much, even when I was working there, like how much demand there was for more artists. Like we were constantly looking for more people that we could pull in and be like, hey, who knows how to do this stuff? Who's on the level that they can create, you know, these high quality pieces of art and like really showcase these champions and sell them, right? So we were constantly looking for people, and if that's the way it was at Riot, I can imagine it's like that at other places too, right? They're just constantly looking for people to step up who just have that skill. It's not a question of, oh yeah, oh you're really good, but yeah, sorry, all of our positions are full. If they tell you that, probably means you're not quite to that level yet, but that's totally fine because you will get there. And that is where I'm going to segue into the next issue here. And that is, as you're learning, as you're taking this artistic journey, right? Whether you want to work doing this for a living, or if you just want it to be like a hobby. I think the biggest thing that will always stand in front of you, and this will never ever leave you, and that is the challenge of improving, right? The challenge of improving, working on things that you don't know exactly how to do them. But it's very, very important that you don't get discouraged when you run into something that, oh man, I've never done this before. I've never drawn this before. I don't know how to draw exact anatomy or proportion or any of this stuff, even down to like the simplest thing, right? Because there's still a lot of simple things that I still fail at, right? But I think the most important thing is that you allow yourself to just take the jump, right? Take the jump. And I've said this before. It's kind of like, imagine you're an astronaut on the moon, right? And you have to get used to this lower sense of gravity, right? Or this lower gravity, right? At first, you know, you're going to take this giant leap, which you should, right? You're probably going to fall flat on your face. But then, second step, right? You'll probably like trip a little bit and catch yourself. Then, sooner or later, you're going to start getting the hang of it, and you're going to be walking just like you would on your home planet, right? And you just kind of relate that to art. Allow yourself to just jump and fall flat on your face, right? Try something that you've never really done before. Challenge yourself. Always be challenging yourself. And don't try to shortcut things, because sometimes people will, I mean, well, how do I put it, right? Because when I first started learning how to draw anime, one of the biggest things that I wanted to learn how to do is like, how do they like put the eyes on this face? Because it just like, it was so like foreign to me how they measured exactly how the eyes would be placed depending on where the head was turning. You know, I almost saw it was like a flat egg shape with like stickers stuck on, right? So like when I drew my faces, they looked weird. They didn't have any depth. And so I studied other pictures of just anime, just like you know, cartoons and movies and all that stuff. And I just kind of, I basically would copy them exactly. I wouldn't trace them, but I would copy them. But sometimes tracing is okay. I personally don't enjoy the idea of tracing. It's almost kind of like learning to paint in Photoshop, and you're just like eye-dropping things over from one thing to the next. But even that, I mean, I think that's more of a learning style as opposed to, hey, this is right and this is wrong. Because sometimes I actually have done that. Sometimes I have taken a painting that I really like that somebody did, and I just be like, okay, what color are they using here? It looks like a dark blue, right? But it's actually, like when I eyedrop it, it's like, whoa, it's actually like a really, really desaturated red. How does that look blue? And it's because of the color relativity. And these types of things I start to kind of understand once I really just kind of like, it's almost like you're doing experiments as opposed to, hey, I'm going to paint this picture and I'm just going to grab all these colors and just try to replicate it. Again, I'm not really big on that necessarily, but again, that's personal preference. But I just want to make sure, when I say try to stay away from tracing and just eye-dropping things, is you want to try to stay away from getting like that high, right? Like getting that fake high off of like doing something, but you didn't really do it, right? You're excited because you did something, but you know, you're almost like fooling yourself into making it look like you know what you're doing when you really don't necessarily. You might have learned some things, but, and like I said, do it to the point where you are learning, but don't take it any further past that. And yeah, let's just leave it at that. But yeah, just to sum up everything that we talked about is, yeah, feel free to do it badly at first. And as hard as that, it's much easier said than done. But you've got to take that leap. You got to take that leap of faith, and you got to fall flat on your face sometimes in order to get back up, and then you improve from there, right? Because you'll actually notice how quickly you improve from point A to point B. Like my mentality was, as I was growing up, and in a lot of ways still, every single picture that I draw is always better than the last one, right? It's always getting better and better. And people would actually tell me this too. And I was like, whoa, what a cool thing to like plant in the back of my mind, right? That's a cool seed. Everything I do is just like better than the last. So naturally I was like, all right, well, let's just try this. Let's just go and go and go. And it just got me into this mentality of, as soon as a picture was done, I was already thinking about the next one. I was always like, oh man, in the middle I would get the idea for the next one. And I think that mentality really carried on even to my today's life. And that really helps when you're doing comics, right? Because you're doing one panel and you're like, oh hey, this one's gonna look really good too. You know, you just jump into the next one. So I think my mentality works really well for comics. But yeah, I think you should always be excited and inspired to move on and try new things. And do them badly. Do them badly, even if it's just silly bad. A great example of this is, it's too bright. Ay. Okay, we got the God rays coming in. That's nice. A good example of this is when I did my first splash for Riot. And it was Twisted Fate. Let me actually see if I can find it. Because this is a great example of, I was super stoked. I was so happy I finally got my chance to possibly work for these people. And yeah, I got my first assignment. It was Twisted Fate. Alright? And Twisted Fate wasn't like really one of my favorite champions. I was like, alright, he's kind of cool. I mean, he kind of throws cards. He's kind of like Gambit. He's Cowboy. He's okay, you know? So, and I think I've shown these before, right? So I want to show you guys this. This will help shed some light on sort of doing things badly at first. So I'm going to turn this off really quick. So a lot of you are very familiar with this old splash, right? This is the one that was in the game prior to them. Oh, actually, no. This isn't the latest one. There's another one. There's one that's better than this, I think. Unless I remember that being a lot better. Is that really? Oh, no, this. Maybe that is it. Okay, anyway. Oh yeah, this was it. Okay, so a lot of you guys probably remember this one if you played League of Legends that long ago. So a great example of what this splash looked like at first, I didn't know what the heck I was doing, right? So this was the very, very first one. I sent this in and I was like, yeah, check it out, dudes. Check it out, Riot. This thing is ready to go in the game. And it's just like, it's so like neon colored and just like really, really ugly, right? But what was really cool is I had my good friend, and later on he would be my coworker, Kyle. He kind of walked me through it and kind of talked about some of the things that went into the art, right? I went in there thinking, it's like, I know exactly what I'm doing. I totally know what I'm doing, right? It's like, don't worry about it. I checked out the splashes. I know what your guys' style is here. Just let me work, right? And then I sent him this, and it was like, oh, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. But slowly but surely, yeah, I slowly just did some. I did polish to it. I painted it up. Did small, just kind of started adding some effects. Learned about silhouetting. Wow, I didn't know about that prior to this. Like keeping a clean shape and focal points and all that stuff. And I basically learned all of this on the fly, right? So I was like jumping, I was jumping like freaking Lance Armstrong, and yeah, it was pretty sweet. But eventually, yeah, I did it, and I think that was the final one. Yeah, this was the final piece that went in, and I was really happy with it because I had never taken something to this point before, and I was really happy with it. But I mean, looking back on it now, I could definitely even do better. But that's the thing is you'll always look back on your old work and you'll always be like, oh well, I could do that better today, and you know that's just a part of life. But I think that just hopefully shows you, you know, where I started, right? For those of you who like, you're like, you look at all my stuff that I did there, and you're like, oh wow, Diana and Redeemed Riven, and you know all my really popular splashes. I really like that you guys dig that, but know that I didn't start there. I started doing really not good, not very good. I had to learn a lot, and I had to learn quick. And I learned quick because I was very hungry and I was ready for the opportunity. And trust me, when you get your opportunity, when the time is right, you will basically just, you'll make it work. And let's see if I can segue that into, yeah, I want to segue that into this idea of being hungry. What does that mean? Being hungry is preparing yourself for the opportunity, right? And whether it comes or not, you're always just ready. And I really think that opportunities are always showing themselves, right? You know, I got my first opportunity to do artwork illustrating books, children's books, right out of high school. Well, just like a year out of high school, for a local studio in Utah. And I found that place because I started a company with my dad, and the businesses never really went anywhere, but my dad made this contact with the guy who owned the business, who then later gave me the job. So isn't that interesting? You know, it's just like, seems like things kind of line themselves up, and even though like the companies completely didn't go anywhere, they failed, you know, that still something came of that, right? You could even say indirectly it got me the job at Sandman, which was the place that I illustrated the book, Sandman Studios. And then that that acted as like me building my portfolio, so that way when I went to Riot, I could say, yeah, look, these are my illustrations, this is the book that I made, I concepted all of these characters, what they were wearing, what the world was like. And it's funny because I was so ignorant that I didn't realize that concepting characters and style and clothing and worlds and stuff like that was actually going to be really useful in games. You know, it's like, it makes sense when you think about it, but like back then, I just felt like I was having fun. And I think that's a good thing to hang on to. You should always feel like you're having fun when you're concepting and doing work. But yeah, I mean, just it's funny how just like one thing after another leads to, you know, the new opportunity. And I'm sure that, you know, if Riot wouldn't have given me the opportunity, or I didn't get the opportunity with that, I might have gotten one later, you know, because they were always looking for artists. I mean, we were looking for artists for, I mean, I was there for like a year, just over a year, and we were looking for artists that whole time. So opportunity could have come from them, could have come from some other video game company, I don't know. But the point is that opportunities are showing themselves to you every day, right? To take you one step closer to where you want to be. And so it's very important that you stay in a positive frame of mind. Because if things are happening around you, things will always happen around you that are going to make you really kind of ticked off, or just kind of angry, or just kind of bitter. And it's very important for you to not to feed into that necessarily. Like, you can take note of it. You can even be angry, right? But don't like get angry and get over it, right? Like, that's something that I really like to do. I feel like when I get angry, I just like to get mad, right? I don't like to go like yell at somebody who doesn't need me to yell at them, but I'll just like do something. I'll like twist a shirt, or like punch a pillow or something, or just like take this ball and like chuck it at the wall, you know? Just like release some of that energy and then get over it, right? Because once you've released it, then, you know, I feel like you can work a little bit easier, or you can like think a little easier. Or another really good thing is when you're feeling kind of ticked off or kind of emo, you're writing your journal about it, and then it takes everything out of your mind and into the journal, and then you don't have to think about it anymore. So one more throwing the journal thing at you. I know a lot of you might think it's silly. I thought it was silly too before I got it, but since I've got it, it's really changed my life, and you guys should consider going to your local Barnes & Noble, getting a little journal for yourself. It will work wonders for you. Anyway, that's another conversation for another time. Don't get discouraged over, you know, just the crap that happens throughout the day. Because when you're in a negative state of mind, you will not be able to recognize the opportunities. They will pass you by, and you won't even know that they were there. They'll pass you by, and you won't even know that they existed. When you're in a positive state of mind, you're always it just seems to motivate. It keeps you moving, right? It keeps you moving forward, and when you're moving forward, you're just gonna pass these opportunities, and naturally, you're gonna find one that works for you. Okay, then. It is getting a little dark again, but I'm okay. I'm just gonna let it run. Let it run. All right. Let's segue that into, speaking of getting discouraged, right? A common thing that I found myself doing as I was growing up and studying art and just really, really wanting to make this a part of my life was I would constantly be looking at other people. I would constantly be looking to what everybody else was doing and being like, whoa, how do they even do that? I don't even understand what they were doing, right? They were creating these such beautiful paintings with just light and even still I can look at artists that paint and I just don't understand how they do that, right? I mean, I can, but it's like it's still so amazingly beautiful to me. It just blows my mind. And you know, growing up, looking to other artists and just getting inspired by them and just really like looking at it in a way of, man, I could do that one day is a good thing. But oftentimes, that's not what we tell ourselves. Oftentimes, we look at other artists and we're like, whoa, that is so cool that they could do that. What's the use? Why do I even try? I'll never be able to do that. And then we stop right there. We just cut it. We just nip it in the bud, and then your journey stops right there, and you're never going past that for the rest of your life, right? That is bad. If you do that, I will find you, okay? So don't do that. Rather, what I want you to focus on is when you see somebody doing something that you really like, be inspired by them. Be inspired and really kind of pump yourself up and say, hey, look, this is what that person's doing. They're a human just like I am. They took the time. They put the time in to hone their skill to get that good. And if they can do it, then I can do it too, right? Because that was what my mentality was. And I was very, very careful about it, the way that I kind of studied other artists. I did it very mindfully because I kind of knew that if I just surrounded myself with all this art, just wanting to be like these other people, I knew that I was going to become overwhelmed by it. Oh, and I have ice water. That's so good. Oh, because it gets so hot in here. So yeah, I think a very, very important thing to do is just take note of what other people are doing and then kind of like distance yourself for a little bit. Distance yourself for a couple days. Don't just like post something up and then like watch what everybody says. You know, it's human nature to want to know what everybody's thinking about your art. But just like don't cruise DeviantArt all the time. You know, just being like, oh hey, oh, this person did this person did that. Oh man, oh they're so good. Oh, I can't do that. You know, and then you just get into this state of always comparing, like feeling like your level of progress, you're always just comparing it to somebody else who's like way ahead of you and has put way more time into it than you, and you're expecting to be as good as them. You know, it just doesn't make sense. It's not a good thing to do. So yeah, make sure that you observe other artists very, very responsibly. It's almost like you could compare it to, well, since this is a kid-friendly show, we can't compare it to alcohol consumption, but let's say it's very, very sweet candy, right? Take a little bit of that sweet candy and it's like, that's good, it's good. But if you take too much of it, you're going to get sick, right? Think of that when you're looking at art, like beautiful art on DeviantArt. Don't worry, it's not going anywhere. It's always going to be there. I mean, there's so much art out there on the internet that you're never going to have time to look at it all anyway. The biggest thing is that you focus on what you're doing, right? Focus on what you bring to the table, what you're going to put out into the world, right? That's the most important thing, and I want to see your stuff. Yes, that's right, you right there. I want to see your stuff, and I want to see your unique style. So make sure that you are always cultivating that and kind of exploring that. And that will move us into the final subject of today, and then we'll take some question catapults. So, speaking of kind of distancing yourself from all of the social media and all this stuff nowadays, I really feel like it helped me as I was growing up because, again, it allowed me to kind of take this artistic journey alone, right? And in some ways, I think that's really, really good. And in other ways, I think it's almost essential because you almost want to think about your path that you're creating to where you want to go is almost like you are an island unto yourself. Your life of art and your style and everything is just hidden in this island. And if you're constantly just looking out at it, at what everybody else is doing, you're never going to be able to focus back in on where you're going and just like searching for the buried treasure on your island. And you're never going to find it, right? So I think that it's very, very important to take the artistic adventure, or take the artistic, yeah, I like that, artistic adventure, why not? Take it alone, right? Make sure that you take time for yourself and you explore and you distance yourself and just take some time to kind of be that brooding artist for a little bit. Be that brooding artist in a good way, right? Really just kind of get down to the nitty-gritty and find out what's really in here. What do I really want to do? What do I really want to express? What do I want to paint? Not oh, hey, what's this guy doing over there? Oh, okay, I better do that. You know, you can check in every now and then. That's the other thing. You come back every now and then and just be like, oh, hey, yeah, this person's still doing that stuff. That's awesome. All right, that's really, really cool. All right, now I'm going back to my journey, going back to making my path, going back to exploring my island. And what's very interesting is eventually you'll come to a point where you're this is what happened with me, and this is so crazy. Like I couldn't even believe it myself when it happened. But I sort of kind of took this mentality of exploring and just kind of figuring things out on my own, right? And I would look at these people on DeviantArt and be like, man, these people are so awesome. These people are so good. I want to be able to do stuff like them, right? And what ended up happening was I kept doing that. I kept looking at what they were doing and going back to my thing. Looking at what they're doing, going back to my life, right? And then eventually, after I got the job at Riot, I actually started, I was working there for probably about 6 months. And then all of a sudden, these people that I used to look up to on DeviantArt, they were the ones that were coming in to be interviewed, and I was the one sitting across the table interviewing them. Like, and that, like at that point, it seriously occurred to me, like that is the way that works really well for me, and I wonder if that would work really well for other people, because I wasn't caught up in what everybody else was doing. I wasn't constantly comparing what everybody else was doing. I just took a look at what they were doing and be like, whoa, that's really cool, that's really inspiring, and then I went back to my thing, right? Kept developing it. And I went back and like, whoa, that's awesome. Went back to my stuff. And then eventually I just, I cultivated this life. I cultivated a career out of it. And I mean, I don't want to say like I got ahead of them, but what's interesting is that, you know, like we ended up working right next to each other. You know what I mean? It was like we were on the same level. Like I caught up to them, you know? And then, like, these people that were coming in, and I'm interviewing them. I was like, this is so unreal. It's absolutely, it blew my mind. And even to the point where we would, like, doing portfolio reviews, I was like, I don't feel right, like, reviewing these people's portfolios, like, telling them what they're doing right and wrong. It's, like, so weird. Like, I can't necessarily say what's right and wrong unless you can be really clear with me. Be like, hey, look, this is what I'm really trying to learn. How am I doing with that, right? I'm really trying to learn how to draw hot babes, right? Am I doing it right? If you ask me that, I can help you out with that. Yeah. Well, I guess that's up for discussion, whether you guys like my art or not. But anyway, yeah, it's so interesting just kind of taking on this mentality of exploring this island on your own. The artistic journey is something that you brave by yourself. And you can have friends along, right? But just make sure that you don't get caught up in this whole comparison thing. Don't judge how good you are compared to other people. Judge how good you are by how you feel about your art, right? Because you might be able to lie to other people, but you can't lie to yourself. You'll be able to look at your art and you will be able to judge it and say, yes, this is what I feel that I'm doing. And even if it's like I'm not satisfied with this, still look at that as a good thing. Because from that point, you have two choices. You can say, hey, I'm not satisfied with this. I must just suck and I'm not going to do this anymore. That's choice one. Probably not a good choice. Second choice is, wow, this really sucks. And this shows me exactly what I need to learn, and now I know exactly where I need to go, right? Now I know exactly what I need to learn next. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the two questions that separate the good artists from the, well, who knows what the other artists could have been. You know, the maybe would have been artists, maybe could have contributed something to the world if they would have believed in themselves. And that's honestly what I want you guys to do. I don't want you guys to be moping around. I don't want you guys to be all emo and stuff. I mean, that's cool if you want to be like, if emotion drives your artwork, that's fine. I mean, I believe that emotion always drives artwork. But don't get discouraged and like don't judge how good you are compared to others, right? Don't do that crap. It's not going to get you anywhere, and it's just going to make you feel like crap, and you're going to get all confused, and you're going to wonder if you should ever, like, it just, like, the one thing that bothers me more than anything is when someone comes up to me and they say, I just feel like I'm so behind. I just feel like I look at all these other people, and right when they say that, I seriously just want to, like, grab their freaking lips and just go, just, like, shut them and be like, shut up. Shut up. You are not comparing yourself to other people. You are you. I don't care if you're freaking 20 years old or you're 16 or you're 65, right? It doesn't matter how old you are, getting started early or late. You have something to bring to the table. If you want to be an artist, you can come up with something. You will create a style. You will create something. Just don't stop. Don't get discouraged and don't even start, right? That's like, ugh. Just thinking about that. There's nothing that ticks me off more than seeing people self-sabotage themselves, right? They quit before they even start. And yeah, better not happen. Better not let me see that happen to you. Otherwise, I will find you, like I said. Alrighty, people. Before we wrap up today, I would like to open up the question catapults. Cast your questions with the chat to your right. I'll answer a couple if you guys have any. If not, then we will end today's daily. I'm going to go ahead and pull up epic outro music. Today's been a good day. I always like doing these talks. Captain Big Butt always has something great to say. Saying, one small step for man, one giant faceplant in honor of mankind. Yes, that is the mentality you're supposed to have right there. One giant faceplant in honor of you. Hulkin Warfare is actually asking a good question already. He's saying, did you ever have doubts that you would make it into the art industry? And luckily I was brought up, I mean, if I could say one thing, I was definitely born with good, like, I was spoiled with my parents because they looked at me and they told me, Keenan, when you grow up, you're going to be doing this. This is what you're going to be doing for a living. And, you know, when your parents tell you those things, it's just, you believe it, right? You believe that's what your life is going to be. And, you know, my teachers would be like, he doesn't pay attention to anything in class, but man, he draws really good, right? Those types of things really, really impacted me as a kid. And I think that that's something, that's why it's very, very important to, I mean, if you're young, I don't know exactly how easy it is to, like, just pay attention to what people say in a way. Pay attention to, I don't even know if I should be saying this, because it's like, take in the positive things that people say, but, like, there's always going to be negative people out there that are telling you you can't do it, you started too late, or you're not good enough, or what the heck are you doing? Don't listen to that. Don't listen to that crap. Take it with a grain of salt, right? Take all that feedback with a grain of salt, but don't stop. All right, and to be honest, I didn't have a lot of doubts. I mean, I think I had, like, a normal amount of doubt, like, hey, you know, maybe I can make this happen. But actually, I would say I had minimal. I had minimal to no doubt that I was going to do it. Just because I knew that I had to find the way. I just knew that I had to find it. And trust me, it wasn't easy. It was not easy. For those of you who know a little bit of my life story, right before I got hired at Riot, I actually was kind of put on the back burner by Sandman because they kind of were going through some financial trouble. And they basically called me and said, hey, yeah, these last few weeks you've been working for us, we're not going to be able to pay you. So sorry about that. And then I had my own apartment. I was living with my best friend. I didn't know what the heck was going to happen. So I ended up, my best friend luckily was nice enough to pay for me for those couple months. And I was like, all right, dude, I'm going to pay you back. And I did eventually. I paid him back all the money that I owed him. But in those times, there was definitely a lot of doubt. There was doubt of whether it was going to work out because it felt like it went to the wire. But I knew, I guess, I knew that I wanted to make it work. But then, like right when it got to that like last little split, like splitting hair decision of whether I was gonna just go for it or whether I was gonna quit and head back home. Right? Now, originally, I was thinking about coming back to here to Utah. Right at that last moment is when I discovered that it couldn't have been any other way. I would have found the way. I would have just made it work. And I think that's the good thing about hard times is you kind of figure out who you are, and you know that when those times come back, that part of you is going to come out again, and you'll figure it out. So yeah, it was good times. So in that way, you could say I didn't have doubt. Okay, next one coming up from Captain Big Butt. He's asking, did you ever make a visual journal where you draw your thoughts instead, just for fun and practice? In some ways, I wouldn't say that I had, like, I don't draw a lot of pictures in my journal, but I always had, like, a sketchbook handy, and, yeah, I'd always be drawing, like, in class growing up and stuff, getting in trouble and all that. So I guess you could say I was constantly drawing, but I never kept an exact, like, journal, although that would have been really cool. Yes. Stuck at 0, I'll end with this question. He's asking, was there ever a point where you noticed a huge increase in people noticing you online before Riot? Before Riot, I remember when I got 72 subscribers. I remember the day. And I was just like, oh, 72 people, like, are interested in what I'm talking about. They like my stuff. That's so cool, right? I'm gonna keep doing this, right? And my original thought was like, I just want to do this for 2 people, right? But now we're approaching, we're over 4,000, and that's really, really cool. But I definitely think that Riot played a huge role in expanding just the viewership, right? Because back when they were doing the spotlights and actually putting the name of the artist that did the splash on that spotlight, those things would get like 1 million views, and it's like, hey, this art done by Kienan Lafferty, and anybody who Googled that name would find my DeviantArt, and they'd find the KNKL show. And so that was definitely when it like really started just like exploding and getting huge, and that was really, really cool. But prior to that, because I kind of always ask myself, it's like, well, is it really because of the exposure with Riot why I have the viewership that I do now today? And the answer is yes, in a way, but whether I get to 4,000 now or if I would have just gone from 72 and just slowly inched my way up, I would eventually get to 4,000 again, you know what I mean? And who knows? Like I said, opportunities are out there every day. It's not like, oh, I missed this big thing to get my name on a 1 million hit video. Now it's, there's no point. There are always going to be more and more opportunities for you to get exposure. Just keep your eyes open and stay positive, I think, is the biggest thing today. Alrighty, people, thank you very much for joining me live once again today on Ustream. People on YouTube, thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. My name is Kienan Lafferty. I'll see you guys tomorrow for whatever Wednesday. We're going to be working more on Amazon. So you guys take care of yourselves, and I'll see you then. Take care. Bye.